Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Freeman Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Mariano. Before we jump into today's conversation, I just want to give you a quick shout out to our sponsor, What the Snark in Wild Rose, Wisconsin. What the Snark specializes in custom apparel, hats, hoodies, decals, and branded gear, all designed and produced locally. For episode 12, I had to get Sam Wood back on the show because there's always so much happening in our communities, and he's always bringing the receipts. So without further ado, Sam Wood, welcome back to the Freeman Focus.
How's it going?
Excellent, excellent. I see that there's a lot happening there. One of the first things that really caught my eye over the last couple of weeks was an announcement about you running for sheriff. I think
Right.
that's
I said we're putting we haven't. So here's where it's at. So we haven't put all of the pieces together to run. It's a little more complicated than me just saying a business to run in North Dakota. We do the trucking business, and how it came about was I have legal advice, right? I got people that tell me, don't say this, push this button, don't push this button. I got airplane mode to keep from getting sued, right? So you got to do the allegedly and the whatevers. So one of the things we had was I needed to announce a candidate. I need to fill out the paperwork because truthfully, if I run, I'm probably going to have a giant target on my back from some people that are going to try to keep me from running. And how would they do that? First thing would be like campaign finance. You didn't announce this right. You didn't do that right. So
right.
even though it's way early in the game, we're going to get that all filled out. We're going to do it just so if we do run. I mean, if I could find a candidate, truthfully, that would embrace what we need done, I would back him. Right now, I think Denny Plants is running and Leif is running. He's a Watoma liaison for the school. Denny was and he works at the Watoma Police Department. Denny was a state patrol. I think he was the chief in Berlin. Both of them have a resume. I don't know much about them. I think I know them both personally, but it's not like back in the day, I hung out, probably had a few beers with Denny, but it's not like I want to endorse anybody. And you get to a point like, it's just like this. I uncovered all this stuff in Coloma, and then I go to the sheriff or I go to the county, and they don't want to pursue it. They don't want to, it's like, oh, well, she didn't do this or you didn't do that, or, what do you want us to do about it? And it's always somebody else's problem, right? And then I look at it as, I guess a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on Democrat and Republican, but in these local races, you probably shouldn't look at party, should look more at character. We're not deciding abortion and everything else. And then if you don't go with, oh, he's a good guy and well, he's been in law enforcement all these years, and then you elect him, and then you find out his girlfriend and his cousin and all of these people, and we have this fraud and all this shit we got going on. And everything that I dug into, it started out with the deputy or the county highway department. We fixed that. I mean, they're well funded or well staffed. They're doing a better job. Then, I dug into Deputy Dick Pick, and that came out. When I first got into that, the sheriff's department and the county said it was just a little Snapchat thing between the deputies. It was a bachelor party thing, and it's really not that bad. Don't worry about it, Sam. Well, that turned out to be friggin' horrible. Then, it was looking into the dog with the sheriff and the overpayment, and it's oh, it's just $1,200. Don't worry about it. And you go and you dig and you dig and you dig and you get stacks and stacks and stacks of papers. I mean, I got every one of these pages. Here's I'm digging through some right now before we did this.
What's interesting is
And
if you
every
were
one of
to,
the pages cost $1 to get.
if someone were to injure one of those officers, those dogs, it would be treated as no different than attacking a normal police officer, a human.
Correct.
It would be the
Correct.
same crime. So in hindsight, you would think that, since all of those dogs are supposed to be honorably discharged and have a appropriate ceremony
Nothing
and live a comfortable life, not allowing that to happen should almost be criminal in a sense.
You would think. I mean, my dogs are some of my best friends. I've had great dogs in the past, and you spend time with them. This is supposed to be a dog that he was a partner with and everything else, and then he ended up, I don't know, it's buried in his backyard. No retirement, no final walk, no. From what I heard, the dog was in really rough shape medically, just bad, right? And it's all that stuff's kind of hearsay. I dig into it, right? And you go to the county or you go to these places and you say, hey, here's what I heard. They don't dig into it like I do. Like, they try to find the first exit plan and say it wasn't that bad. And then the dog thing came out to be $21,000 he owed the county. He never should have been paid for the dog, not one single payment, while he was the sheriff. And I uncovered that. And then some little stuff, the changing of the documents at the jail, forging reports, and changing reports. That's criminal. I'm digging into this gun thing where they're buying, and I got more information on it today. I got another lead on it today.
Awesome.
They're buying guns and taking guns in the sheriff's department, and they're taking
And
them
some
for
of these are like
themselves.
family heirlooms, right? Like family heirlooms too.
Well,
Like these are
so
things
here's the
passed down.
thing: the two guns I started out looking for were private citizen, private property, never returned. So we have that. The one that they fessed up to, I think they looked at the easiest way to get out of Samwood looking. So it was a Smith & Wesson 38 Model 60s, $300 gun. He supposedly paid $25 for it. And now listen, what's crazy is I'm not getting this. I'm not guessing at this information.
Right. It's not a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I got to put the pieces of the puzzle together, but I have local law enforcement. I have other law enforcement besides the sheriff's department in Waushara County and outside of Waushara County. I have a couple of sheriffs that are not even in this state that I know that have come on and they're giving me advice on what to look for and everything else. These guys, and then I have deputies, I have jailers, I have dispatchers. I have run-of-the-mill employees for Waushara County. I have friends of their families calling me. I mean, people are fed up with their bullshit. And I
100%.
got a lead today that one of the sheriff deputies' family members has gotten some guns that are tied back to the sheriff's department.
That's a whole can of worms right there, it sounds like.
Yeah, so the guns I was looking for, they didn't confess to. The gun I wasn't looking for, they confessed to. They
Right.
said that, Brad McCoy bought this gun. I think he bought it for $25. I'm not sure, but he bought the gun super cheap. That's a crime right there, using your position to gain monetary value. I mean, I went to court for the feelings court and I took cupcakes and they told me I couldn't hand them out because it was like giving out a gift. So that's how
Right.
strict they are. And then we have Brad pulling this, and then they say, well, we only used, even though the gun is owned by Brad McCoy, we only use it for departmental use. That's kind of bullshit because it's owned by Brad. And then there is some forms they can fill out to keep them guns for departmental use, and they bypass them guns. And then it was involved in a robbery or a theft here at Loretzon's. They stole, I think it was 20 guns or something back in 2001. The city of Milwaukee recovered like 15 of these guns throughout
Oh,
the
that's
years.
phenomenal. That's
Yeah, it
awesome,
was
actually.
crazy how many guns they got.
Well,
So some of the
stupid
guns,
criminals. Stupid criminals, man.
John Loretzon was paid out of the insurance. Dave Peterson was at the sheriff at the time, and I got the records. The Milwaukee
I
County
remember that name.
turned the guns over to David Peterson. He was the sheriff. Dave Peterson turned them over to the insurance company, right? This particular gun, Milwaukee County had it. It was kind of misplaced. I don't think there was anything nefarious. It was just in a locker, kind of was going to get back up here. They were making sure the gun was clear. The gun was cleared, and it made it back here to Waushara County. Brad McCoy looked at it. So once the insurance companies pay out, they become the victim on the claim. So the deputies, they would know exactly who to call. It was an insurance company, and they said in the record, they said they wanted nothing to do with the gun. They wanted it to, find out if John wants a gun. John supposedly said he would be over there in a week to look at it. They contacted him. I don't know. One thing didn't work out. This was back in 2014, I believe. Supposedly they contacted him. John kind of remembers them contacting him. But anyways, so then the insurance company says, we just would rather you destroy the gun. We don't want nothing to do with it. And
Right.
then
Easier
Brad said,
easier to get rid of it, and then nothing's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
happen in the
So then
future.
Brad says, hey, rather than destroy this gun, why don't you sell it to me? And then he purchased that gun. So that's the story. That fits their narrative. They can say that it wasn't a family heirloom. They can say that they contacted. It fits their narrative, right? Well, I'm still
Right.
digging into the couple of guns, and then I get the phone call this afternoon about somebody else, a family member of somebody in the sheriff's department, getting guns from the sheriff's department. Had that good of a connection. Don't know if it's true, allegedly, right? But I'm digging into
Allegedly.
it. And here's the thing, right?
I appreciate your due diligence, Sam.
Well, how do they prove? How do they expect me to believe they did it to one and not others?
Right.
When I know the character of these people. This is the same guy that said he was going to get inmates, never did. This is the same guy that talked to a junior officer into changing the reports, a criminal report. So I know your character, right? So I don't fucking believe you, and I'm
100%.
and we
Can't
shouldn't.
trust you once, can't trust you twice.
Yeah, exactly. Ink is stink, right? Just because you got, you step in shit doesn't mean you just wipe it off your boot and it's gone. It lingers with you for a little bit. So we have that, and then obviously we're checking in and I'm calling the ATF and doing my due diligence. And we came up with that deal where Melissa's gun came up in New Mexico.
That's why I started laughing.
I mean, hats off to this ATF guy, right? To remember the name.
What was it, like some weird name? I forget what you said it was.
Yazzie.
Like Abani or Afonso or
Yazzie.
Yazzie.
Yazzie was his name.
Yazzie.
So by the sounds of it, it was the felon, had possession of it, DWI, but we have the gun. So they screwed the serial number up in New Mexico. So we have the gun. So, and then, it's just, honestly, shit always happened to me, right? But yeah, so I don't trust that. And then I dig into the Coloma deal. She never goes on duty. She's padding the
Significant amount of money, too.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like almost double the amount of money?
I did 3 years of just one. So it was her and Jim Lutz. His name is Jim Lutz, just so everybody knows. I call him Jim Lutz because it reminds me of putts, and that's kind of how he just comes off as a big putz. So it's easy for me to remember. But yeah, so Stacy is padding her retirement. Well, then I find out she's not even eligible to pay into her retirement or pad her retirement in Coloma because you have to be a full-time employee at least once at that jurisdiction, and she wasn't. And so it's just all the shady shit, right? And then I take it to the county and they don't really want to bite on it. It's a Coloma problem. I hope all the people in Coloma stand up and go in there and
I mean, it's their tax money, right? That was wasted.
Well, and then it's ours. And then,
that's the county. It's the county, but still, yeah, like, I mean.
And then they want people from Coloma to stand up. And I'm like, well, if I witness a crime in Wautoma, if I'm not a resident of Wautoma, should I still turn in the crime? So you have that, And truthfully, it's just the cover up. Just the cover up and the bullshit.
Like you said, it's the character. It's the intent of what they were trying to do with it.
We got the new chief deputy, and he's turning out to be same fucking way. Don't dig into it. Yeah, I told Scott, I said, here's all the evidence. And he's like, what do you want me to do with it? He's like, oh, she didn't violate any policies. No, nothing to see here, And I'm like, the part is, I know Scott. I am fairly certain, almost beyond a shadow of a doubt, with the information that I got, that Scott Egan knew about the dog shit, the Coloma shit, and his name was on Deputy Dick Pick stuff. And it's like, so I had a meeting with Scott, and he goes, well, a lot of people knew or thought was going on, but, what did you want us to do? Where were we going to go? Well, no, you're the fucking guy. You're the man. And you don't do nothing? Tuck your balls back into your belly button because they almost fell down and you don't know what to do with them,
And I like Scott Egan. I mean,
I think here's the thing, right?
I'm a fan of his police work in person.
As a family man and all of that, as a cop, he was probably good, except for, you whined at what could you do knowing this information, but you had nowhere to go with it because, the sheriff and his cousin, his fishing buddy, but now you're the number 2 guy. And I get it. You're in a bad position, right? I mean,
I'm hoping he makes the smart choices here because his community really needs him to.
To me, he's starting to make some shitty choices, and I get it. He's got to deal with the sheriff for one more year. But you wanted that job. You knew what you were getting into. I mean, he's going to the meetings. He's doing the motions. He really is. But
if he was the union steward that was sitting in the room when they discussed what happened with Deputy Dick Pick, then right there you can already tell that there's some level of like, all right, that this person's misconduct.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, right? Deputy Dick Pick was a union member, and Scott was in there representing the union, right? 5 or 7 of them other deputies that were asked for pictures or wanting to fuck or whatever were all in the union too. And you left them standing alongside the road with their dicks in their hands. There's nothing to do. You just left them hanging, right? I mean, I don't get. And then they have this thing called a mandatory reporter. cops,
Right.
teachers, they're all, if they hear about this child
A
stuff.
crime, if they hear about a crime, they're supposed to do
Yeah,
something
and
about it.
especially the child stuff, right? You're supposed to mandatorily report it. Ain't
You
nobody
would
get done.
absolutely think so, especially if it's concerning a child.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It's easy on the outside to look in, right? But it's also, you're in the
It's black.
position of,
It's black or white, though. You know what I'm saying? There's
yeah,
no gray area
yeah,
with
you're
some
in
of
the
this stuff.
position to do that. So,
Yeah.
we're just, I don't know, man. It's tough, right? So, like I said,
I've said prayers for him. I've said prayers for you. I'm like, I know that these men are in difficult positions, Lord, but just guide them, protect them, just let them do what they need to do. So I hope
that's
that
where
he
it
does
comes
the
in.
right things.
That's where it comes into running for sheriff, right? I don't know if anybody else has the balls to do what needs to be done. I
Oh,
do,
I
you know,
understand.
I do, but you need the community behind you, and we've had that, right? But at this point in time, we should be outraged. We should
There
be
should
at
be
every
unrest. There should be unrest
yeah,
because
we should be at every county board meeting. And then, I got some of the deputies that are working with me, and they're telling me, people in out in the real world are just up their ass and calling them thieves and everything else. So I'm kind of like, come on, folks, let's lay off them. We got rid of the two bad seats,
right.
two of the three that I think were bad seeds that were not in the administration. The third guy, I haven't decided how I'm going to handle that yet, because there's a little bit of personal stuff in there, but he is shady and he is shitty. And so I got to figure that out for myself. But we got rid of Deputy Dick Pick and we got rid of Schnauzer Schultz. Schnauzer Schultz is in Plainfield. That's my other problem, right? They're allowed to leave in good standings and go get another
Yeah,
job.
unreal that
Um,
they could do that.
I believe Deputy Dick Pick will never work in law enforcement again. If you Google his name, it's over. You can just Google it and you can see. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
I seen that the Badger Project also posted some stuff online. It actually made like news. It actually made the news somewhere. I remember seeing
yeah.
some news
Yeah.
place.
So, and I'm, I work close with the Badger Project. They give me some information. I give them a lot of information. The Badger Project gives a little more reach to it, right? Maybe a little more validity. They do their due diligence. So yeah. And as far as Scott Schultz violating, the civil rights of people and constitutional rights and all of that, he got told, I don't know, whatever they caught him on this last time was enough to say, hey, you're done. We're not doing this. And I don't know what that was. And here's the thing, right? I should probably dig into it a little bit, because he was allowed to leave on good terms. He is working in Plainfield. I can't believe that. Um, and
Especially
again,
so close to home after the
yeah,
shit he
and
did here.
he's one of these names that just kept coming up, coming up, coming up. And now he's at a place where his name came up a lot. If your daughters or your sons have Snapchat and you go to Plainfield School, you need to look at it. It's all I can tell you. I just, the Snapchat is bad. So you have that, right? And it's like they were allowed to resign in good standings and move on with their life. But some of these people that they've affected, I truly believe Scott Schultz put people in jail that were innocent just because of the way he operated.
That
So,
could give someone PTSD, like emotional distress
and then
problems.
here's the thing, right? You ruin somebody's life over bullshit. It's not even
Right.
true. For what? For numbers? For arrest records? For being the number
Taking away
one
somebody's
guy?
freedom, man.
Yeah, it's just shitty,
That's
right?
huge.
It's bad
That's
enough when people
constitutionally
it's
incorrect.
bad enough when people get locked up that are innocent because everything is done right and it looks bad, but it's really bad when we lock people up or we find people or we do something that affects their life and it started out unconstitutional. I was told when I got the body cam, help sheriff get the body cams, that it's going to weed some bad guys out real quick. Scott Schultz lasted 2 weeks before he had his first offense of violating constitutional rights on camera. So yeah, it was like 2 or 3 weeks. So, the cameras did good there, right? And it holds people accountable. I've talked to deputies that were
This is a
trained by,
state. This is a state of where accountability is absolutely needed at every aspect of government.
for the people and the government,
Yeah, for both.
you know.
Because for one, if they get sued, it's taxpayer dollars that are paying those settlements, right? So it
Well,
really those
it
cameras are for
is
both.
because well, it does. So this is how a lawsuit goes when you file a lawsuit. Because I have a lawsuit against the county for being hit by the backhoe and all that shit. So what happens is once the county knows they're getting sued, or there's a rumor of them getting sued, they have to know, or there's a chance of them getting sued, they have to notify their insurance company. So when I brought up the sexual harassment stuff within the county, and then the county hired a lawyer, that lawyer was the county didn't hire a lawyer. The county notified their insurance company, hey, we got a shitstorm brewing here. We could potentially be sued for sexual harassment. So the insurance company looked at some of the stuff, and the insurance company immediately sent an attorney in their behalf. So once you sue them, they no longer have nothing to do with it. It becomes the insurance company. So they're paying their premiums every month, right? And so is it taxpayer dollars? Yeah, you're still paying taxpayer dollars, but it's the same amount they're paying every month. I believe probably after a few lawsuits, I would assume their premium would go up.
Something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
so they immediately notify the insurance company, and the insurance company takes over, has nothing to do with the county anymore. The county hires the attorney, the county litigates the insurance company hires the attorney, and they litigate the case for minimum loss, right? So that's why that's why they hired the attorney. So we have the board meeting tonight, and they're going into private session on that, and they're going to talk about that. Have you ever been to a board meeting?
I have not been to any of the Watoma board meetings, no. But I
No.
believe I have attended board meetings in the past. I've seen some
Everybody
of
should
that.
go to their town
I
board
100%
meetings or
agree.
county board meetings and their small government and learn what's going on. And that's another thing that's happened through this, right? I have a guy that got involved with this, and he's become involved with some stuff going on in Red Granite, and he's starting to go to the board meetings, and hats off to him, right? He came to me and he's like, "What do I do? How do I get involved?" And I like, pick your passion. So he done that. So I feel good about that. I have a gal
Kudos.
in another town that has and kind of both of these people are, they'll tell you they weren't ever the pillars of the community. They were in trouble, but they're working it out of it. And they're thinking they want to give something back and become a valuable part of the community. So the one is she was involved in some drugs and some drug rehab, and I think did some jail time or whatever. Now,
Everyone has a past, man.
yeah, but now they've gotten involved in their community, and they're getting the rec center opened up, and they're having meetings, I think once a month, trying to do it to just try to help some other people, So even if this was the end of everything I did, I got rid of a lot of bad apples in Washington County. I got some accountability. I would hope I have a little bit of a legacy with a couple of people, right? That are gonna maybe,
I would imagine so. You've done some
you
great
know,
things.
so so that's all good. That's where I needed to be and wanted to be, and it's the same thing. I don't have the right now. I don't have the time, and then to run for sheriff, and that's a big responsibility, right? But we're putting the pieces together in case I have to, because I don't know if somebody's not going to come along that has the balls or is not going to commit to the process.
Right. You got to
And
see it
that's
through,
where,
because if you start something, you got to finish it. You got to see it
yeah,
through.
yeah, or you got to
Change
figure
has
out
to
it,
happen.
it doesn't, yeah, change has to happen. And it's not necessarily you have to make the change. You have to get other people to help you. So the
And like you said,
Republican,
you might even endorse someone if the right person does present themselves.
correct.
You just haven't
And
seen it
and
yet.
and then we'll allow for the accountability. The cover-ups have to stop, right? I mean, I believe that Scott Egan is not gonna have any cover-ups from here
I
forward.
trust that man. I trust him. I
I
trust
believe he's
Scott.
not gonna have, but he's not gonna help me dig and solve the past. That's not gonna
Right.
happen. He doesn't want that to come out.
I
So for
understand there's a
whatever,
blue line. I get it. It's even
the
if,
fucking blue line is fake as fuck. It's bullshit.
they back each other in some sort of, I mean,
They've been
I've
working
heard all
together for
kinds
a
of
lot of
stuff.
years, right?
I heard everything from, like, because I grew up in Chicago, so I've seen gang members, I've seen Latin Kings, Vice Lords, Gangster Disciples, folks, 2-6, all kinds of people. They say that the police are the biggest gang in the entire country,
100%, and they can't even police themselves.
and that the people are the biggest militia in the United States. The people of the United States are the biggest militia in the entire world.
Yeah, we are. And you don't have
We,
to
the
be armed.
people.
You don't have to be
Yeah,
armed. You don't have to be armed to have a voice. You can do a lot with your voice and your time and your energy. I mean,
right. That's
you look,
everything. Your intent with your time and your energy is everything.
I'm privileged to be able to afford to do what I have to do. I mean, it's thousands of dollars in records requests. I'm privileged to have enough up here. They underestimate me, but I figure it out, right? And then I'm privileged to be able to once a month or once every 4 or 5 weeks come in and kick the door open and cause a bunch of shit because I uncovered something. You know, consider it. I mean, it's my civic duty, obviously, to do what I do. And I didn't get involved in a lot of this shit until COVID hit, and you realized how much the government was against the people.
Never did I see a day never did I think I would see a day where I had to carry a piece of paper with me to let people know that I shouldn't be jailed, that I'm essential to go to work.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that I had to wear a mask or I was committing a crime.
Yeah.
They talk about protesting for no kings and dictatorship, but yet where were those people screaming, bloody murder and all that stuff when that was
Right.
happening?
You know,
Or when
now we
people are
got
getting murdered on trains or
the,
buses by
the left.
foreigner
The left is
criminals.
against the army or the arms and the guns and everything else. But
Free Maduro. It's like that guy's literally a dictator. He literally took over
yeah,
his country.
he was a
People
king.
died. There was
He was a king.
famine.
He was a
You know,
king.
he
Yeah.
I talked to Venezuelans that told me that he cut internet and phone communications during election times to try to twist his campaign thing to
Yep.
benefit himself to win.
Control the
The guy
narrative, bro.
literally forced his way into power, and they're just like, "Free him. We have no business
No,
helping him."
it's just crazy, as soon as people realize the right wing and the left wing are connected to the same bird. So running for a small town office or a county office or something like that, truthfully, you need to look at these people's character and not the R and the D. We don't need that shit. I mean, we're not fighting abortion and everything else. We want a sheriff, no matter what he is, that's going to stand up for the Constitution, right? And he's going to stand up for the people that elected him. Like through all of that COVID shit, Wally stayed in the basement, never gave an answer, not once, of where he stood. I'm here to tell you, if I'm the sheriff, I'm going to protect your right to freedom of speech. I'm going to protect your right to have a gun. I'm going to protect all of that, and then oversee
There's a
the
reason why
people.
those were the first two constitutional amendments, right? I mean, that's number
Yeah,
one and
freedom of
number
speech
two,
was the
right
big
there.
one because they didn't have a voice, right? And then the second one, the reason the second one is so important is because it protects the first one and it protects
100%.
all the other ones.
100%.
Without arms, you're a nation of nothing.
Canada's feeling that right now.
Yeah, you don't have any arms and you don't have any borders and you have nothing. So
Yeah.
that's where it's at. So we're leaning towards the sheriff position. We're leaning towards running only because of this. We're putting our ducks in a row. So if I do run, they can't come back and say, you can't run because of this, or you didn't declare this, or, so because
File this or
we need 200 signatures. I'm probably going to need 500 signatures because they're going to go over every signature with a fine tooth comb. They're going
you
to.
will get those 500 signatures, no problem, Sam.
Yeah,
I am sure
I
about
tell
that.
everybody I'm going to hold a drive-through at the sheriff's department to collect my signatures just to prove a point.
You stand there flipping one of those signs.
Yeah, I just tell everybody to come on through and show the sheriff how
You're
pissed
gonna
off.
get a fine for causing traffic impeding traffic.
Yeah, well, we can use the parking lot behind the sheriff's department that never gets used, right?
You can park your Tesla. There's some space to get charged over there too,
Yeah, well, so that's kind of funny, right? So I'm against that because I drove around there numerous times with my pickup trucks and there's no place to fill up with cheap gas. They're selling the
Right.
electricity. So here's the thing, right? They're selling the electricity at cost. How do you pay for whatever it costs to put that thing in? Like nobody's thinking of this, right?
Maintenance, right? Doesn't that thing have to get maintenance at some
And
point?
then first when they put it in, it didn't work. Like how does Sam Wood know, right? How does Sam Wood have a Tesla, drive up to the county, back in the spot, plug it in, and it doesn't work?
Right.
And then I go online and I look at the reviews and it's like, yeah, it's charges slow, doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
I mean, that's not half as bad as the fact that the new courthouse or whatever was like leaking through the roof already and stuff like that.
yeah,
like,
we've had roof leaks, we've had the lights, we've had
the
so if
lights
you
being
go in there,
left on all night. That's a little bold.
so
Like,
a bunch of drywall cracking, a bunch of repaintings had to have been done. Like I went into zoning, the building inspector's office. Now, this is the guy that's going to come out and tell me how to build my house right. And I we're in there in his office, the fucking drywall's cracking on a brand new building, right? It's like, what's the irony of that shit happening? And then, I talk to the gals and they're like, oh, you think this office is bad? You should see some of these other ones.
like they just put that building up,
Yeah, and then you go into a lot of these offices too. You look at this old building that we had. It was old, and truthfully, it was in ill repair, right? Because
Right.
they weren't keeping up on it. But somehow you found the money to build a new building. It has like no windows in a lot of these offices where these ladies had windows, guys had windows. They don't have nothing here. The big beautiful building, I call it. Trump has his big beautiful bill, and we have our big beautiful building. It's just a disaster. The parking
That's
lot. Did
funny.
you ever hear about the duck races and all that shit I did out there?
No, no, I didn't hear about
So
that.
they paved the parking lot. So I'm fighting with, at the time I was exposing all of the shit for the county highway department. He was
Okay.
spending he was working 4 days a week, and literally I did the math for all the equipment he bought in 1 year. He was spending $6,000 a day on equipment of our taxpayers' money.
Wait, it's a lot of money
So
out the door.
yeah. So they, in their infinite wisdom, said, we're going to have the county do the parking lot. Somebody can go back on my pages and look. So they came and they did the parking lot. And one of the county employees, when they got all done and they're looking at it, looks at the other guy and goes, well, Sam was going to have fucking fun with this one. They literally missed the grade. The water, they would be a giant puddle, and they would be like 5 feet from the drain. It's like, you were so close. So they had this giant puddle, and I was doing the videos on, now we don't have a warranty. We're going to cost us the money they saved is not going to be good. We're going to have to bring somebody in to fix it. And I did one of them unicorn circle floaty things. So
Yeah,
during a
yeah.
county board meeting, I put that unicorn floaty out there. So it was out there floating around in this giant puddle. And then I went back and I held rubber ducky races. I had a bunch of rubber ducks and I dumped them in these big puddles. And I'm like, oh, we're going to see who wins it.
My gosh. Oh,
I
this,
mean, it was so bad. It was so bad. The concrete was cracked for
but
the
for
new
the amount of
sidewalk.
money that the taxpayers are going to pay for all of that, why wouldn't it have been done right the first time?
Because there's no accountability. So you
See,
have
I really
people.
think that 2026 is really going to be about people being accountable.
So
That's
you
the
have
reason
the
why
guy
even
that's
the news stations.
you have the guy that's in charge of the facilities, right? And then you have 11 county board members, and then you have the county administrator. None of them know how to manage a project. And now you're going to build a 90 million, you're going to have a $90 million building project. They built that and some EMS buildings in the county highway shop, right? You're taking the word of somebody who has no vested interest in it. So I used to do roofing, a commercial roofing, and we used to do the roofs on the Walmarts and county buildings and stuff like that. And the county would hire an inspector, and he got paid a percentage of the cost. So the more extras we could add, the more money he makes. Zero. So they built this big, beautiful building, and they had nobody in there giving him advice on what they should do. They hired a subcontractors that were out of the county. They came in, and people are watching this building going up, and they're like, I don't know much. I build houses, but this is shit. Or I do concrete, and this is shit. And we do asphalt, and this is shit. And they had nobody. It's the accountability, right? I sat in a meeting. I sat in a county board meeting one time. John Jarvis was running the meeting. I think it was a facilities meeting, and it might have been a main county board meeting, but I think it was a parks and facilities meeting. John Jarvis was running it. And their biggest thing, dude, they spent 20 minutes because this building project went over 2 administrations. It started in one and it went into another one. So there were some people that were elected here that were not on the board list. So the big 20-minute conversation was, whose names are going to go on the plaque and where are we going to put the plaque?
That's what mattered the most to them.
That's what mattered. That's what mattered. And it was like, I wouldn't put my name on this fucking place if you paid me. It's a shithole. I've sat in meetings. I just sat in a meeting with Gene Weddy. Again, parks and facilities meeting. So there's 2 quarries. There's West Point Quarry and Flings Quarry over by Auroraville.
I watched that video.
Yeah, so they're like 40 acres apiece. 140, it might be 43, but they're basically 40 acres apiece. And the county leases them out, and they get $220 for, I believe, and the other one they get $5 an acre. It's ridiculous. When the going rate is probably 30 or 40 an acre, 30 an acre. Comfortable.
Right.
And then I kind of screwed it up, right? Because they were talking about selling it. So I went to the meeting and I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't sell an asset. And then because I hadn't looked at the land, when I went out there and looked at it, I should have shut my mouth and agreed that, yeah, you should sell this immediately. And here's my offer. I mean, they appraised them at 250,000, and I think you could get 400,000 for one of them.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here for a moment. Please enjoy this video about my sponsor. Building a brand or a business takes time and focus. As an entrepreneur or business owner, there comes a point where trying to manage every detail on your own can slow things down. What the Snark helps take some of that off your plate. They provide custom branding, business apparel, drinkware, and precision decals for vehicles, equipment, storefronts, and even custom home goods. A one stop shop for all your custom gift needs. Located on Main Street in Wild Rose, What the Snark offers custom solutions designed and supported a clear and professional presentation. Visit their shop or reach out to learn more. All right, folks, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video about my sponsor. Let's get back to it.
And
Yeah.
probably maybe 500,000. Just the view is phenomenal. Imagine a spot maybe half the size of the Red Granite Quarry
Well,
and
I've been to those quarries. I've
and
been
put
there.
your house on it, right? And then I go to the one quarry, they have a storage container, shipping container. We're not allowed to have shipping containers in Washington County on our property. So you're not
Huh.
even, oh, and then the other one I went to, the guy's leasing it out already to campers and everything else. There's two campers sitting there and he's charging them each $500 a year. And he's only paid $200. So he's already $800 ahead.
That guy's bankrolling at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's piss poor management of our
Public recreations. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you said it right when you said asset, because those are assets.
yeah, they're assets, right? If you would allow,
It can
if
be
you
used
would
for
allow the
diver
county to sell
training,
them
all
for,
kinds of
if
stuff.
you would allow the county to sell them for $250,000 a piece, let's be realistic. That would be $500,000, right? Their deficit last year for the budget was 600,000. So you wouldn't even cover our deficit last year. And then we
Right.
have nothing. I want to take it and use it for something. We could use it.
Earn money over time.
Yeah, they're looking at borrowing
Compound
money
interest.
they're borrowing money they're trying out for a grant, but I say the grant, it's a 20-80 split. They give us 80%, we put in 20% for updating trails and everything else, and they don't even know how much they want it, but they want to go for that. And I'm like, wow, if we would have rented these out for $2,000 a year, we'd had $4,000 a year residual income, and we could take care of some trails. And we would always have that money, right? Not to say that they
100%.
would manage the money any better than they manage the
Right,
asset,
right.
but at least we would have the asset.
Well, they got to do something if they're not going to put bodies inside that jail that they have there. I mean, they got all that
Well, we
extra
got 5.
space.
We
Hey,
got
that's a
5.
start. That's a start.
A
That's a
start.
start.
And I went in there and I said, "When are we getting our next 5? What's the plan? How many do we want?" And they don't have no answers yet, but I'll keep pushing on that.
Yeah, I'm all for forward progress. Like I said, people have histories, they have past, they make mistakes. It's what you do and
Yeah,
what you
but
grow from.
I shouldn't have to be all up in their ass every single moment to get shit done that they should be doing.
But you had mentioned that there was 2 people that you've worked with or that you've since this all started, that if not anything else, you've at least planted a seed and they're
Yeah.
getting involved in their
Yep,
communities
yep,
and
they're
they're
getting
making an
involved.
impact and a difference.
And I think there's some people that are gonna be involved at a county level, and I hope so, maybe if my grandkids or my great-grandkids look back, there'll be some kind of legacy there that my granddad stopped all of this bullshit back in the day or whatever.
It's all about making a positive difference for our future. I mean,
Yeah, and
it
then
might
and
not
then
change anything for us tomorrow, but it certainly could change
and,
a lot for a lot of other people.
through this, when I started exposing the sexual harassment, I realized how poorly we were set up as a county. So me and my wife is set up. In the beginning, like I said, when I went after Deputy Dick Pick, I thought I was going to expose a little bit, and I had some lawyers standing by in case there was some retaliation on the whistleblowers. But it blew up into this, 20-some women coming forward with sexual
Yeah.
harassment, and then not only that, I had other women coming forward, because we were pushing for, if you've had this problem, talk to. So I ended up getting an advocate, and me and Melissa, well, mostly Melissa. I mean, I work close with them, but Melissa works very close with these advocates now that, we offer up a quiet place when they're doing an investigation and talking people where they used to go to the library and it was loud. So to be a lot of that stuff, we've made an impact, right? But you still have to walk the walk now. So I have that. I still have women maybe once a month, one every 2 months, reach out. We get them help. I have people that reach out. This happened to me or that happened to me. I get them help. I know some proper channels to take, and you can bypass a lot of the corruption, right? And like I said, I have like I said, sheriffs from other states. How I got in contact with them is when we were trying to get the body cams. I went to sheriffs in North Dakota that were running small community sheriff's departments, and what did they do for body cams? And so I have a relationship with these people, and I have a relationship with a lot of law enforcement right now. That's it's a giant black eye, and they want it to stop. And I know, Washoe County's looking for the mole, trying to figure out who's giving me the information. It's so many fucking people, and
Right.
some of them only give me one piece. Some of them give me a little better trail. Some of them tell me, "Hey, I heard this today." Some of them say, "Hey, this happened. You should look into that." Right? And then some of them are uh, members of law enforcement outside of Washoe County, but no Wally. They were at a seminar and Wally was fucking drunk, shooting his mouth off, and I should look into this, right? They have ruined their reputation. And the good thing is like I'll die and they'll never know who gave me the information. Even if I would get elected, even if I would get elected.
Realistically, it's FAFO. I mean, if you're gonna fuck around, you're gonna find out, and that's just
Yeah,
really what it
right.
comes down to.
And I mean, I can't imagine this is easy on them. I can't believe Stacy hasn't hung it up yet.
I mean, there's always the what could go through their heads, but realistically, they've done what they've done. They thought they've got away with some of it,
Yep.
or nothing illegal could be proven, so they didn't commit a crime. There's no victims. There's no.
Yeah.
They can spin it however they want to
They
spin
can
it,
spin
right?
it however they want it, but we can see through
But
it,
the
right?
community still needs an advocate. The community still needs justice. The community still needs to feel safe. And obviously, if you can't trust specific people, especially the sheriff himself, then
The good thing is, when I first started, I was pretty hard on the rank and file, right? The deputies. You knew what was going on and you didn't have the
well, you
balls
got
to
to check. You
stand
got to
up.
check people to see who has a spine and who doesn't. I
Well,
mean, there's that.
and basically none of them did. But we've talked, and now we're in a good place. So I tell everybody, take it easy on the guys out in the field. They're not the problem. They're the
Right.
guys getting the black eye and they're getting shit splattered on them because
Right.
the fucking administration sucks,
And some of
right?
them are new, so like they're not even involved or didn't even know about it. So it's like,
Right, right. Yeah,
don't take it
exactly.
out on these people. Period.
100%, 100%. I think that we had guys that had thought they were going to run for sheriff. In fact, I know we have some people that were going to run for sheriff. One that was going to run for sheriff, and he ain't running no more because he can't handle the heat that's going to come down on him. And
Right.
he's part of the good
Right.
old boys club, right? So yeah, I think we do good. I just wish I'm gonna keep pushing to get more and more people involved. Um, and just keep doing that, right? And if I do run for sheriff, even if I don't win, I think I'll make it interesting, and I think I'll raise some things. And I think that just having me there changes the dynamic of what the other candidates
Right.
are going to
Like
do.
they better shine. They better polish
You
their
can't
shit.
have black and white. You can't
Yep.
be complete opposite of Sam Wood and say you're
Right.
doing right. You know what I mean? So we'll have
Right.
that aspect. People are going to say, maybe people want somebody who was in law enforcement to be the sheriff. I'm against that, and I see why it shouldn't be that way. But
Right.
maybe you feel safer having a sheriff that's in law enforcement. And right now you have two of them that are running. But you could also say, I want you, but I also don't want the fuckery. I want the cover-ups to stop. I want the shit to stop. I want to know that you truly have my best interest in mind. You truly are going to protect and serve. I think they've forgotten about the protect and serve, right?
Community first. I mean, that's your service. Your service is to your constituents,
Right, right.
to your
You know,
community
we just
members.
had a thing I was involved in. I got the recording. Um, 79-year-old man here in Wild Rose went up to the bank, tried to draw out $11,000, said he had to pay this money or he was gonna, I don't know, but it was one of the scams, right? And thank God the bank not only had the fortitude to call the sheriff's department, but also had the fortitude to realize the sheriff's department wasn't going to help them. And they helped this man. I mean, $11,000 for a 79-year-old man is probably a life-changing happening. So they
His
called the
fourth
sheriff's
quarter of
department.
his life, he can't come up with that sum of money overnight.
Right. We don't know how much money he had in the bank, but 11,000 is the start. They get the 11,000, they'll get more, they'll get more. I have I know of two or three different, I know of two people for sure that have basically lost their whole retirement on this scam back in the day, and they're hand to mouth right now. So, anyways, they called the sheriff's department. Dispatch said, has he lost any money? No, we stopping it. Does it somebody know? No. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's somebody in another country, and they're like, well, we have the routing number. Oh, they move around and da 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 da. They wouldn't even take the time to go. And they're like, the guy's he's a little upset, maybe it's some.
How do you ever stop internet crimes if you don't ever investigate them?
Well, and that's it, right? So then they said they had all of this, and it was a horrible interaction, and it was so bad. Luckily, the bank, small town bank, right? They get involved. I think they got a hold of I know they got a hold of the family, and their family stepped in and going to make sure. But the teller was so pissed off that it was like an hour and a half later, she calls the Wild Rose cop, gets his personal number or whatever, and calls him. He's home on medical leave, just got done getting his knee fixed up. And, he put on his sweatpants and went down there and took the report. And then when it was brought up to the sheriff's department, they're like, well, if you want us to start investigating them crimes, we're going to have 10 more calls a day. Well, it sounds like now we need a task force. Their answer is we're not going to do it because it's going to take up too much time. We don't have enough time. And to me, I'm like, it sounds like we need a task force. It sounds like we should quit worrying about brat fries, and we should be going to the Lions clubs and all these clubs and these community organizations and talking about.
All right, folks, looks like we're going to have to pause this episode, and we will pick up where we left off when we can get Sam back on here. Thanks.